Hey, my name is Linnane. I'm in lovely Leitrim, though originally from Kildare. I'm part of Leitrim for Choice, formerly the Leitrim Abortion Rights Campaign. Um, I'm also the former treasurer for a couple of years of the National Abortion Rights Campaign. I'm the chair of the National Maternity Hospital campaign, and I'm a director of the Sligo Rape Crisis Centre. So reproductive justice, reproductive rights, reproductive health care. They're my issues.
How did you get started?
That's a good question. How did I get started? You can go back to 1983, really, to the hated Eighth Amendment. That would have been the first time I had any real awareness of the issues of reproductive justice affecting women and pregnant people in this country. Obviously, we weren't successful that time, and those issues lay dormant for a while, but they raised their head over and over again over the years, especially in 1992, as we know, with the X case and various other horrific cases through the years until 2012. We had the awful case of Savita, and that brought me back out onto the streets for the first time in a very long time. I was in my 50s at that stage. I was 51 years old, bit old for getting out there and making noise, but it had to be done. There was a groundswell of anger, and sadness, and frustration, and that was what brought me back into campaigning again. And I joined the abortion rights campaign at that stage and stayed involved with them. And then as we got a date for a referendum, I set up the Leitrim Abortion Rights Campaign, Leitrim, which became Leitrim Together for Yes.
Right. So that's bringing a national project or a national issue down into the local.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it was always local. It was always local. In the year before the repeal campaign kicked off, 21 women left Leitrim. This is a tiny county. We've, I think at the moment, about 35,000 people living here. I think at that time it was only about 32,000, say 5 years ago. And for 21 people to leave this little county and be recorded as having sought abortion care in the UK was huge. So it was a national issue, but it was a local issue, because in every town and village and up every bowreen in Ireland, somebody had had an abortion. Politics, all politics is personal. It is, at the end of the day. All these issues are personal because they affect people. They affect people at the most basic levels. If there's somebody in this village today who is pregnant and doesn't want to be pregnant, that is deeply affecting. And it is an issue which should affect everybody in the village, because we have to look after each other. And unless we do, and until we do, none of us are safe.
Okay. How do you find out the information that goes to build your campaign?
Well, finding information has always been my thing. I read voraciously. I read every newspaper in the world if I can get my hands on it. I don't drink or smoke, so I oversubscribe to newspapers. and I just read constantly. But I also link in with other groups. We would be in touch in the Leitrim campaign. We would be in touch with Malta, Gibraltar, Andorra, Argentina, several of the US campaign groups. We're a tiny little county, but we're known, and we make sure we're known. Andorra is tiny. It's even smaller than Leitrim, but they're known. We make sure to hold each other up and feed each other information.
Okay. I like that idea that we reach out.
Yes.
And that someone has learning that we can use.
Always.
Yes.
Always. All the information, all the things that happen to other people happen here too.
Okay. So for women who are interested in getting involved in a campaign, a local issue, What advice would you give them?
Talk to people. Talk to everyone. Literally talk to everyone you think might be interested. Some people will tell you to go away. Some people won't be interested. But just by having spoken to people, you'll become known as the person who's involved with that issue. And when somebody wants to know about that issue, they'll ask you. Or you'll find the people who are already doing the work on that issue, and you ask them.
Yeah.
But you talk to people, you get known, and you get to know them. And that's how you do it. You just talk to people. You ask for the information. You ask who's doing this. And if nobody's doing it, then you do it.
Right. So it's the stepping up and it's the taking space.
That's it. I think, though, people might be a little bit afraid. People don't want to be the first one to put their hands up. And that is daunting. That certainly is daunting. But actually, it's empowering. It's freeing once you've taken that first step. And you will find there are others. There are always others. But usually, it takes one person to put their hand up first. And then the others come in behind you. And then it gets easier and you hold each other up.
Yeah. Have you found it that politics, that, all the kind of systems we work under, like our health service, our education service, are they complicated, or actually are they easier than we think to kind of get into and use and utilize?
They're both. They're complicated systems, and actually our health service in particular is overly and needlessly complicated. It's obviously designed by a committee of some sort. It's a mess. But once you get into those systems, and once you bear in mind that they're all run by people, once you get into those systems and start talking to the people within them, you find your way around. I have found with Irish people in particular, through my work, I'm an accountant by trade, although I don't do much of it these days. But I used to deal a lot with the tax people, and people would say, "Oh, the taxman, oh my God." But, if you ask the tax people to help, they're delighted to help. People love to help. People want to help you. And if you ask people for help, usually they will give it to you. If they can't, they'll find you someone who can. So negotiating any system, if you remember that it's run by people and you ask them for their help, it's possible.
Bernie, thanks for the little snapshot of your life within your own particular campaign, but more generally to kind of the role and the value of women placing themselves and getting involved in these issues, the campaigns, even the positive things, making a change in your local area.
Well, women have to be part of everything. We make up more than half of the population. If we're not involved, it doesn't work for us. The system must work for women. And really the only way it can effectively work for women is if women are part of designing the system. Now, we're a bit late to the races for some of that, because most of this world was set up by men for the benefit of men. But given that we use that awful phrase, we are where we are, we start to change it. And we start to step up and say, well, actually, no, this doesn't suit me. This NASA designed spacesuit was designed for a small man, not an actual woman, and it doesn't suit. So let's start again. And, little by little, you change things, and you keep changing things until finally the spacesuit fits and you take off, I suppose.
That's a really good analogy. That's a really good analogy. Yeah. Thank you so much, Bernie, for taking the time. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Paula. You're very welcome.